Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into a really fascinating book. The title alone grabs you. Sehonang Priya yang melalui duka dengan mencuci piring.
Which translates to a man who goes through grief by washing dishes.
Exactly. It's by Dr. Andreas Kurniawan. And the core idea is pretty striking.
It really is.
It takes this incredibly mundane, everyday task, washing dishes, and uses it as a deep metaphor for working through grief, for healing.
Yeah, it makes something huge and often overwhelming grief feel manageable somehow, accessible.
And the author, Dr. Kurniawan, he's got this unique perspective.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial here. He's a psychiatrist, so he has the clinical understanding, but he also tragically lost his own son, Hiro. So he writes from this place of, deep personal experience, too. It's this blend of science and raw humanity.
That gives it so much weight, doesn't it?
It really does. So our mission today in this deep dive is basically to unpack that. How can something so simple, washing dishes, actually guide you towards healing?
Okay, so let's get into that. How does washing dishes become like a deliberate healing strategy? It's more than just a neat comparison, right?
Oh, much more. The book points out something quite profound. Grief, like washing dishes, is something nobody really wants to do.
Right. You put it off.
Exactly. But you have to do it eventually. That comparison itself kind of normalizes the resistance we feel towards facing grief.
Yeah.
It takes this big abstract emotional flood
Yeah.
and reframes it as a concrete task, step by step. The book literally talks about, rinsing grief, scrubbing it with soap, drying it.
Wow. So mapping physical actions onto emotional processes.
Precisely. Discarding, cleaning, rinsing, drying the burdens, it mirrors the process.
That really lands. It suggests healing isn't always these, grand epiphanies.
Yeah.
It's more about the consistent, maybe even tedious daily actions. So what happens if you don't do the dishes, metaphorically speaking? If you let the grief pile up?
Well, just like real dishes, right?
Yeah.
The longer you leave them, the harder they are to clean. Caked on stuff.
Makes sense.
The book argues unresolved emotional burdens just accumulate. They become harder to process later. But then it goes deeper, beyond just the practical steps.
Right.
It brings in concepts like impermanence, the idea that everything changes, nothing lasts forever, including life itself, which sounds maybe harsh, but it helps foster acceptance.
Acceptance of loss as part of life.
Exactly. And psychological ideas, too, like desensitization. The idea that by repeatedly, mindfully engaging with the emotion, like tackling a small pile of dishes regularly, it can actually lessen its overwhelming power over time.
Okay, that leads to something else I found really thought-provoking in the book. This idea about how grief changes, or maybe how we change around it.
Ah, yes. The basketball analogy.
Right. It challenges that common idea that grief just shrinks and shrinks over time until it's tiny.
Instead, the book suggests that life, your capacity, grows around the grief. The grief might stay the same size, like a basketball.
But your life expands, so it feels relatively smaller within that larger space.
Precisely. You grow bigger, not the grief smaller.
Which is a really different way to think about it. So what does that mean for, our connection to the person we lost?
That's where it gets incredibly profound, I think. The book argues that grief is actually an intrinsic part of love.
Intrinsic to love. How so?
Well, think about it. If you tried to completely erase the grief, the memory of the person,
right.
You'd essentially be erasing the love you had for them, too.
Wow. Okay.
So grief isn't presented as this enemy to be vanquished. It's more like a testament, an enduring sign of the love that was there. It's about learning to carry it, to hold it as part of your larger life.
And the author sharing his own story about Hiro makes that feel so much more real, less theoretical.
Absolutely. That vulnerability is key. When a psychiatrist shares that deeply, it breaks down walls. It makes the advice feel, earned, validated by real life.
Yeah.
And there's that line, true death is when we are forgotten. It encourages you to remember actively, to cherish memories. It turns grieving into an ongoing act of love, of connection, not just sorrow. It sort of democratizes healing. Shows that can happen right there in the middle of your everyday life.
So wrapping this up, what does this deep dive really leave us with for you, the listener?
I think it's a reminder, isn't it, that healing isn't always about dramatic breakthroughs or trying to escape the hard stuff.
Right. It's often found right in the middle of things, in the mundane.
Exactly. Inconsistently, mindfully showing up for your life, even the parts that feel like chores, like washing the dishes.
So the book challenges you, maybe, to think about how engaging with your own difficult feelings, even through simple routines, could actually be a really profound form of self-care.
Yeah, a way to connect deeper with life, with memory, to build resilience.
Maybe the path to peace isn't about escaping the ordinary at all. Maybe it's about finding meaning right there within it, embracing it.